Joining us now with his reaction, the congressman representing Kentucky's 1st District, Congressman James Comer. Mr. Congressman, really, the Democrats think Republicans are the greatest risk to our country right now when we have inflation, we have shortages, illegal immigration, the list goes on, COVID.
All they can do with their base right now is inflict fear upon them because their policies are taking effect. And the American people, especially the Democrat voters and independent voters, they're seeing what happens when Democrat policies get implemented. You get inflation, you get lack security, crime rates go up. The American worker has less money at the end of the day, and they're concerned about the future of their country. That's what happens when Democrats have complete control. So now the Democrats are going to punt. They're going to try to inflict fear on their base. They're going to talk about Donald Trump. They're going to talk about January 6th. The things they're not going to talk about are the policies they've already implemented with respect to energy and spending and everything else that's created the disaster that we have in America right now.
If they want to talk about where we are 1 year later, just look at where we are 1 year later. We had the safest border in the history of our country. We had the great American comeback was underway. People were getting jobs. We had no problem with inflation. Things were so good this time last year, and yet they want to focus on this faux outrage that we're under attack, when really we've been under attack for the last year based on these radical policies.
That's exactly right. I mean, the Democrats have no platform. The only platform that I've seen from Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Joe Biden over the past 12 months has been spend more money. Right. Borrow money from China, print more money, do whatever, spend more money, and that leads to inflation. And the American people are starting to see that. I think most Republicans knew what would happen, but a lot of independent voters didn't realize what would happen, and now they're seeing what's happened. So the Democrats are going to continue to try to invoke fear. They're trying this narrative now when we go back to Washington next week to say that your right to vote is in jeopardy. I don't know of a single American anywhere in any state that was denied the right to vote if they were a legal citizen of the United States, anywhere where they were denied the right to vote. Yet if you watch the liberal mainstream media, that's all they talk about is, oh, our voting rights are under threat by Republicans. That is completely false. And it's just another pivot from the Democrat Party to pivot away from the disastrous policies of the Biden administration.
It's amazing how they're against voter ID when you go through what the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is, the things that would be taken away, whereas you can't even go out to eat in Chicago or New York without your vaccine passport. You can't even take your family out to eat. You can't go into really any place of business anymore in these Democrat cities. They're for ID. Just at the polls, everything should just be loosey-goosey, and let's just have unsolicited mail-in ballots.
That's right. The cities are where the biggest problems are in America, and all the cities are run by Democrats. The cities are where the highest crime rates are. The cities is where there's a mass exodus of jobs. People that own businesses in the cities are sick and tired of the higher taxes, the higher regulations, and the high crime. So they're moving to the suburbs. They're moving to rural America. The cities are the ones that are bankrupt, asking for bailouts from the federal government. So we can see what happens with Democrat leadership, and that's you get bankrupt cities with high crime rates and inflation that are bogged down with unnecessary, burdensome rules and regulations. So the COVID vaccine mandates is another example of Biden policy that's hurting our economy. We have a labor shortage that's only getting worse because workers are getting frustrated and they're leaving. If they're left with the choice of being forced to vaccinate or remaining in employment, they're quitting in record numbers, and that's making a bad labor situation even worse.
And there's no plan. That's what's so amazing about this. With everything that's going on, all they plan on doing is just changing the news cycle to create outrage about other things. There's no actual solution to get the job done and really get help to the American people. Republicans, Democrats, independents, everybody's suffering through Biden's America right now. But Mr. Congressman, thank you for fighting back, being part of the real resistance now. Keep us posted on your efforts. We're definitely all going to be watching Joe Manchin, but thank you for the work that you do.
Thanks for having me on.